Now I get back to being me. But in the process of being me, I want you to understand it was incredibly important to have this show today as a follow-up, because it's one thing to address that specific individual the other day. Now it's time for me to address me and how some of you out there think about me. You don't know me. And what I would say to you is, particularly if you're Black, is shame on you for not knowing me. I'm on national television every day for 2 hours, 10 hours a week, a minimum of 45 weeks a year, which amounts to 450 appearances, or 4,500 hours to be specific. That's what I'm doing every year on television. I'm giving 15 takes a show, 75 a week, over 3,000 takes a year. And over the course of my career on First Take, we're not including SportsCenter, we're not including NBA Countdown, we're not including the NBA and Stephen A's World, which I once did, we're not including my takes on ESPN Radio, which I once did, or Mad Dog Sports Radio, which I once did, or the Stephen A. Smith Show that I'm doing now. Just for the purposes of First Take, I have spewed an opinion on over 45,000 issues in my career on First Take. Some of y'all will have a problem with 10 things that I said. And the 44,990 takes that I gave that you agreed with, you don't care about. And worse, when it comes to us, as a result of you having a problem with what my position is or what my take is, it can't be, oh, the take is the problem. Oh, it's got to be, I'm not really a brother. No other race does that to folks but us. When are we going to stop that? I can sit here and pontificate about that till the cows come home, but I won't. Instead, allow me to regurgitate something I have regurgitated over the years, because when I was on ESPN LA radio years ago, Snoop Dogg, my brother, unsolicited, called into the radio show and said, yo, I hear these people talking this crap about you. Man, you ain't selling out, you looking out. The issue at that particular time was weed and how I was opposed to it being used by professional athletes. Snoop Dogg had to call in and let everybody know I'm his brother. We all know Snoop Dogg is synonymous with weed. It don't stop me from loving him. I've never lectured him about it or anything. Why? Because it didn't affect his money. See, at some point in time, you got to make up your mind what you want from somebody like me. Because the other day I highlighted for you what someone else would do. They parrot themselves as the paragons of virtue, come to save the day, going to people that look differently than us and saying, I'm the one that will call them out. Selling us out. Throwing us down the river. Treating us like we trash. If it's not an athlete one day, it's a hip hop artist the next. If it's not one of them, it's an actress. If it's not one of them, it's a network. If it's not one of them, it's one of us. African Americans in the industry. That is not me. On a case-by-case basis, my obligation is to call it as I see it from my lens, Sometimes you agree with me, sometimes you don't agree with me. But what you can never do is look at me and say, I don't love my peoples. When I talk to you about corporate America, ask the people who've spoken to me. Ask Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson on All the Smoke. Ask Podcast P led by Paul George. Ask them. Ask Ryan Clark and the boys with the pivot. Ask them. Ask anybody who's spoken to me. Ask Nate Burleson. Ask Michael Strahan. By the way, Michael Strahan, my thoughts and prayers are with you and your beautiful daughter. Recently revealed that Michael Strahan's daughter suffering from brain cancer. Love you, bro. My heart's with you. Stay strong, and I'm wishing the best for her. I'll call you soon. Ask Robin Roberts. I wish the late Stuart Scott and John Saunders was here. Ask Michael Wilbon, who's still here. Ask anybody who knows me. I never said you'll always agree with me. I never said I was always right. I give you my perspective from my lens. Why? To inform you. So you'll know what roadblocks and impediment lie in wait, and you'll know how to maneuver your way around it. If I sit up there and I say, like Dan Le Batard said on his show the other day, Stephen A. called me up when I was, rampaging against the establishment and rampaging against ESPN. I said, you can't do that you can't talk about the company like that. Yeah, Dan, that's fine, but that's not all I told you. I specifically said to you, it won't work. That is a battle you will lose. Ladies and gentlemen, what am I doing for you if I'm not talking to you about what will win? I never called myself this winner. I never said that I was some paragon of virtue. I never said that I knew everything. What I said was, because I'm number one, and because people have said you're in this position, you have a responsibility to bestow whatever knowledge you have upon those less knowledgeable because of less exposure, to expose them to that truth so they will be well armed to produce and be successful. Isn't that what we want from each other? What am I supposed to do? What am I really doing if I am sitting here and talking to you, and I'm never talking about anything that will help edify you and elevate your level of knowledge about the particular minefield that you're about to engage in, and I want you to win in? If I don't do that, what am I doing for you? That's me. And I have proof that's my intentions. Because y'all love to talk about my money. You love to point out how Stephen A. making millions, even though nobody gets it right. You want to talk about how I'm a millionaire. Well, how many brothers from the streets of New York City, from the hood, is a millionaire as a professional and ain't an athlete or a rap artist? How many of those exist? You're looking at one of them. I can shut up, go on my merry way, not say a word, and collect my check. I have never done that. I always reach back, and I always strive to do the best that I can to uplift and to help others along. I've done it with HBCUs, as I will continue to do. I've done it with charitable donations to my alma mater and others. I've done it with my time. I've done it with speeches. But most importantly, I've done it walking through the corridors of corporate America and saying, don't judge us as in a book by its cover. You'd be surprised what we can show you we have the potential to achieve if given the opportunity. But along the way, Folks have their own rules and regulations. You know why? Because they don't believe you have the right to do what you want to do, say what you want to say, act the way you want to act, and do whatever the hell it is that your heart desires while you got your hand out for somebody else's money. There's a level of capitulation that entails everything. You want me to tell you who the real sellouts are? The real sellouts are the individuals who come before you telling you you could do whatever you want to do and be whatever you want to be, and you still gonna succeed when they didn't do it to succeed. They didn't highlight how they capitulated. They didn't highlight how they presented themselves and how they played to the tune of whatever they were taught would work so they could get what they wanted to get. But then they get it, and then they don't tell you the formula they utilize in order to get ahead. Stephen A. does not do that. I tell you the exact formula. I come on my podcast and I tell you that. I come on my show and I tell you that. I tell you that on First Take. I tell you that during interviews. I've told you that in my book, Straight Shooter, Memoir, Second Chances and First Takes. That's exactly what I have done. That is why I feel the need to speak up. I've often told folks in white America they're very lucky. They come to work every day with a job to do. Black folks, particularly those who are successful, come to work with a responsibility. As a black man covering sports, what the hell do I have to do with Trayvon Martin? But every black person in America was saying, Stephen A., what you gonna say? Because I had the platform. When Tyree Nichols got brutalized by the officers in Memphis, Stephen A., what you gonna say? Ryan Clark, what you gonna say? Swagoo, what you gonna say? When Philando Castile got killed, when Freddie Gray got killed, Stephen A., what you gonna say? Those are not sports stories. But you insisted anyway. Because you know you're holding me to another standard. Because for years upon years upon years, black folks didn't have that voice. Yet we do now. The sad part is, you got a voice now too. And instead of utilizing it to strive to be as constructive as I strive to be, not most of you, not all of you, but certainly enough of you, your definition of content is to denigrate somebody else's perspective you may not agree with, instead of looking at where it's coming from and asking whether or not it's truly them edifying you about the minefields that lie in wait. I spoke up the other day in closing. I spoke up the other day because I wanted you to see that when you say those kind of things that you say, it wasn't me you're talking about. It was somebody else. And it should be clear who that somebody else is. But having said all of that, just understand that to my family, my friends, my loved ones, my employees, my team, you're not going to see that from me again. I will never do that again. But I didn't lose my temper. I wasn't out of control. I meant what I said. Every syllable. I've meant it for years. I just held it in. And every now and again in life, you're required to exhale, to let it out, to stop somebody who thinks they're a bully, excoriating folks at every turn because it's the only thing they have left in their arsenal because they can't get a real job. And to think they're going to do that. I wasn't going to let that happen. But I want to assure my daytime employers, Disney, ESPN, I want to ensure Mr. Iger, Mr. Pitaro, Mr. Magnus, Mr. Norby Williamson, Mr. Dave Roberts. I want to ensure my colleagues, because remember, when I act up, it affects the producers on First Take. It affects Molly Kiram, the matriarch of the show. It affects my contributors that work with me, my teammates on First Take. It affects my teammates here with the Stephen A. Smith Show. It affects advertisers and sponsors who believe in me and represent me. You don't have to worry about that from me again. I will never do that again. But it wasn't an accident. I called beforehand and gave a personal warning. Yes, including to my pastor, A.R. Bernard, for the Christian Cultural Center in Brooklyn, New York, who is my spiritual father. I got a ways to go. I'm not there yet. He knows that better than anybody. But he also knows that wasn't how I choose to conduct myself at any point in my career. I will never do it again. No one has anything to worry about with that with me. But I did it on purpose. My sister, Carmen, cringing, didn't want me to do it. Pastor Bernard didn't want me to do it. So many people didn't want me to do it. But they all conceded in the end it was necessary. Not to mention numerous bosses. Because remember, I used to work at Fox too. Just like I worked at ESPN. I used to work at these places. And I cannot tell you how many text messages I got from former bosses and colleagues. This has never happened to me in my career, where I didn't get a single text message finding anything wrong with what I said. They knew it was necessary once they heard what I had to say. And as an aside, my former colleague at ESPN, Mrs. Sage Steele, Mrs. Conservative herself, I could respond to what she said, but it's not necessary. Because at the core of it all, I know that she was shocked and disappointed in me. And I don't blame her. Because she never heard me speak like that before. Especially on camera. And words like unprofessional certainly applied. To her as well, I would tell you. I did it on purpose. It was necessary. It's the only time in my life that I believe on camera, in a working environment, I would ever believe such language, such vitriol, such a delivery would be necessary. That was the one time. That's how you treat bullies. I will never regret it, and I will never backtrack from it. But again, I will never do that again. It's not how I roll. It's just that every now and then, a bully needs to be exposed and humbled, whether they know it or not. Back with more of the Stephen A. Smith Show in a minute.